What it do? Bedtime crew. Hey man, listen, today I'm literally in heaven. And today we're going to be talking about every fight the UFC needs to make after UFC Fight Night Houston. Strickland versus Hernandez. Great card. Lots of finishes. Lots of big wins. Lots of crazy moments. I'm going to be talking about the biggest fights that I want to see next after what happened. I'm not going to be covering everybody. Okay, so if you're here to find out what Nora Cornell's next fight is, you're on the wrong fucking video. Let's get into this, man. The first guy I want to talk about is Alden Corrier, teammate of the personal friend of the channel, Joshua Van. Very impressive victory over Louis Garul at UFC Houston. Really exciting prospect in the flyweight division, man. Good boxing, good grappling, smooth with it on the feet. And I think a really fun matchup to make in the flyweight division. Let me just make myself a little bit smaller, dude. A really fun matchup to make in the flyweight division would be Alden Corrier versus Ray Saruya on UFC 327, because obviously the UFC did announce at 327 we're getting Joshua Van finally defending the belt against Tatsuro Taira. I know, I can't believe it. A UFC champion actually defending their fucking belt. I never thought we'd see it again, but here we are. And now you have the perfect opportunity to make a fight between two of their teammates fighting each other on the same card. It makes perfect sense. Ray Saruya is outside the rankings. He just lost to Joshua Van. He's taken time off. He was supposed to come back and fight the Mongolian dude. I'm not even going to try and say his name right now. And Alden Corrier is now 2-0 in the UFC. I think this would be a really fun matchup. I think this would be a good chance for Ray Saruya to show the improvements that he might have made from the Joshua Van loss. And this might also be a good way to get some momentum going into the main event, or the co-main event, excuse me, for Team Joshua Van at UFC 327. I like when the UFC does shit like this too. I wish we got more of this out of like Team Izzy versus Team Team Khabib. Team Izzy versus Team Pereira. I liked on the UFC 202 card they did Artem Lobov versus Chris Avila, like Team Conor versus Team Nate. I like when the UFC does shit like this. So I think this would be a really fun fight between two good prospects in the flyweight division. Next guy we're going to talk about, man, Jacobe Smith. Genuinely caught a body at UFC Houston. This is one of the best prospects in the UFC, man. This guy has wrestling. He has power. He's cleaned up his striking a little bit. There's still some question marks there, but he looks like one of the best prospects we have. Super explosive. Kind of reminds me of like Arman Tsarukyan a little bit. I know that they made the Khabib comparison on Contender Series. I don't really see that. He does kind of remind me of Arman Tsarukyan with the ground and pound, with the scrambling. And, primarily being a good wrestler, but having some decent power in the hands. And I think a good step up into the top 20, top 25 before we give him a ranked opponent. I know we called out Kevin Holland, but Kevin Holland's fighting Randy Brown, and I low-key do not see him winning that shit. I think a fun fight to make would be Joel Alvarez versus Jacobe Smith. I think that this is a good step up in competition against a very dangerous guy coming up from the lightweight division. We have seen Joel Alvarez kind of struggle with being taken down, and the Arman Tsarukyan fight is obviously something I'm going to point to. But I think it'll be nice to see Jacobe Smith not fight a short little stubby fucking wrestler like he has in basically all his other fights, right? Nico Price, being a tall, gangly kind of dude, gave him a little bit of problems. I'd like to see him fight Joel Alvarez. I think that's a really tough test. Joel Alvarez just beat Vicente Luque, so they're both right there outside the top 15. Whoever wins this fight, they could maybe get like Jeff Neal, God bless him, God bless his soul. They could get like a fucking Colby Covington matchup, maybe if he stays at 170, maybe like a D-Rod. They're getting a ranked opponent is what I want to say, right? And I think this is a good test. Joel Alvarez has good striking, good grappling, really high finish rate. He only went to a decision against fucking Luque somehow. Finishes everybody else, slimes out everybody else. That's a banger fight I'd like to see, man. All right. Now we're going to move on and talk about the main card. I'm not talking about fucking Michel Pereira. I'm not talking about Zach Reese, dude. Okay, I'd like to see Chidi Njokuani versus another like lanky welterweight dude. Maybe him versus Neil Magny. Be a nice bounce back for the GOAT Neil Magny. Maybe Chidi Njokuani versus Jono Mikalev. Again, another friend of the channel. I want to talk about this main card. I want to talk about Ante Deleia, mate. You know what? That's what would have happened to me when I fought Spivak if I didn't fucking KO him, mate. Terrible fucking loss here for Ante Deleia. I mean, how Do you pass the test of Marcin Tybura, the great top 10 Marcin Tybura, and then get schooled on the feet by Sergey Spivak? It's pretty rough for Ante Deleia in the heavyweight division right now. He's 1-2 in the UFC, KO'd by Waldo Cortez Acosta, now coming off a loss to Sergey Spivak. Dropping down that top 10, maybe in the top 11. I mean, to be fair, Tai Tuivasa was ranked for like 3 years straight on a losing streak, so I don't think he's going to get cut or anything like that. I think a good bounce back fight or a good test to see how, where he really fucking stands is Talison Teixeira versus Ante Deleia. If you can't fucking win this, dude, all right, back to PFL, buddy. Renan Ferreira rematch. That's what you're getting, dude. I think Ante Deleia could win this. Based on how bad Talison Teixeira looked against Tai Tuivasa, gassing out from fucking holding a Dagestani handcuff, gassing out from just beating up Tuivasa, not even a high output, not even really trying to finish him. I think that Ante Deleia does win this fight, but I think it's a good, matchmaking kind of, it makes sense, right? Talison Teixeira is coming off a win over Tai Tuivasa in the top 12. Don't know how the fuck my boy Tuivasa was there, I'm not going to lie. And Ante Deleia is going to drop down to probably like 10 or 11. I think this makes a lot of sense. And like I said, bro, if Ante Deleia cannot win this shit, brother, say goodbye to the rankings. We're putting you in there with fucking Don'Tale Mayes, or we're sending you to the fucking BFL. I think he wins this. I think this is a good addition to a European fight night, if that's what we're talking about. That's something that Uros Medic mentioned. Maybe you put this on that card, or maybe you just put this in the Apex. I don't really give a fuck. I don't care, but Ante Deleia, Talison Teixeira, that's what I would do. And as for Sergey Spivak, mate, you know what? I might have to defend me fucking belt against him, mate. He's fucking bounced back, Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Spivak 2. Let's right now listen, dude. This makes sense, bro. Okay? Sergey versus Sergey. Let's get Pavlovich versus Spivak. I would put Blades here, but I think that Blades may have a fight already, so I'm not going to throw him in here against Sergey Spivak and get Sergey Spivak destroyed by my boy Curtis Blades. I think Pavlovich versus Spivak makes sense. It's probably number 4 versus number 7 or number 6, wherever the fuck Spivak ends up in the rankings. The winner of this probably going to be Sergey Pavlovich, but if Spivak wins this, okay, now we throw you in there with Volkov. Now we throw you in there with Waldo. Somebody like that. But most likely, I think Sergey Pavlovich would probably win this. And is this not just the type of fight that gets announced for like a UFC Abu Dhabi fight night? This is the most Abu Dhabi fight night, second fight of the card matchup I've ever fucking seen in my life, dude. That is all I can think of when I look at this matchup. I can just see this happening at a crisp 4 in the morning for me. And Pavlovich wins by fucking 29-28 boring decision. But that's what I would do with Ante Deleia and Sergey Spivak. I do Deleia versus Teixeira, and I do Pavlovich versus Sergey Spivak, mate. Sergey Spivak, great fight here, Let's talk about fucking Dan Ige, man. My boy got slimed, dude. I did not think the day would come that I see Dan Ige actually get TKO'd. I know that I've been kind of memeing on Dan Ige a little bit, being kind of a 50-50, gatekeeper to the rankings, but it is kind of sad seeing him get finished, bro. It's the end of an era, dude. Dan Ige's not going to be ranked anymore. We no longer have the UFC pretending Dan Ige is like this future title challenger, this top contender. Dan Ige is now, he's flying high with his boys in the unranked section. This is kind of where he belongs, I think. And I do think he beats a lot of these guys in the unranked section unless his chin is absolutely cooked after that finish. I think there's a lot of fun options for him. I mean, if you want to give him like a layup bounce back, I'd say maybe give him like Haider Emil or somebody like that. Maybe you do a fun kind of scrappy matchup like Dan Ige versus Jack Jenkins. That would be fun in Australia. But I think if I'm looking logistically at the rankings, what makes sense? Myron Santos deserves to fight Dan Ige. Myron Santos is on a pretty good win streak right now at the featherweight. He beat Sadiq Yusuf. I know that was at lightweight. He just slimed out fucking Muhammad Naimov as well. And he beat fucking Khan Offley, mate. Who does that to bloody Khan Offley? So you're looking at a pretty good win streak here from Myron Santos. Not a full-blown Melkers IL Costa 5-fight winning streak of sliming people out. So it makes sense. Santos deserves a little bit of a jump up the rankings. Dan Ige needs a little bit of a jump down the rankings. And I think it makes sense logistically. It's not like a goofy matchup where we're like, fuck it, we'll give Dan Ige Cub Swanson or something. Or just throwing him to the wolves, giving him another ranked opponent. I think that's pretty fair. This is such a Apex co-main event as well, dude. It's one thing that I make these bangers. It's also I know exactly where the UFC would put these. This is a crisp fucking August co-main event in the Apex. You know what I'm saying, dude? Can you not see what the fuck I'm saying? That is such an August co-main event in the Apex, and the main event is like a middleweight top 10 fight. It's like Roman Deleia versus Cannonier main event. This is the co-main. And we're like, dude, this card's not even that bad, man. Dude, this card is literally kind of good, man. With the way that the UFC has been fucking matchmaking lately, like Gilbert Burns, Mike Malott being a fucking main event. I'm making a video about that, by the way. Tomorrow, that's going to drop. I wouldn't be surprised if we get to a point in fucking October where like, dude, Danny Gay, Myron Santos, that's a pretty good co-main, bro. Dude, the UFC low-key kicked, man. Dude, this is kind of a banger. But yeah, that's what I would do with Danny Gay. You're getting Myron Santos in the Apex, kid. All right? Melchizael Costa. I fucking love this guy, dude. I thought he was going to win a 29-28 decision against Danny Gay, basically like everyone else does that gets ranked. But he went out there and slimed him out with a fucking spinning heel kick. So I think we do need to capitalize on the fact that this guy is on a 6-fight win streak. Because one thing that happens with these guys on win streaks, Anthony Hernandez is a great example as well. They have to win like 9-8 fights in a row to get a fucking top contender, and then they get the most cooked, diabolical fucking matchup instead of getting somebody up the rankings that makes perfect sense for them. As soon as they get in the rankings and they're on a 7-fight win streak, I would just say fuck it, let's give them a top 6, top 7, top 8 opponent. And as for Melchizael Costa, dude, Arnold Allen versus Costa, bro. This is a bang. Now, if this was a fight night main event that got announced, I would be very fucking happy. This is a great fight. If Arnold Allen's going to stay at 145, because apparently he crashed out on a live stream when people were telling him to move up to 155. He also did crash out about my impression of him. We did squash it. He did reply to my story with laughing emojis and called me, what did he call me? I think he said big guy or big fella or something like that. I don't know if he fucking hates me or what. Big boy, that's what he called me big boy. So I don't know if he thought I was guru or something, but listen, regardless of that, we all love Arnold Allen. We all love Melchizael Costa. This would be a great fight night main event. Put this in front of a crowd, please. I'm fucking begging you. Knowing the UFC, this is getting sent to the Meta Apex as a main event in September. But I think regardless of what happens with this, either a 5-round main event for Arnold Allen versus Melchizael Costa would be great. Makes perfect sense. Arnold Allen's like top 6. He's coming off a loss. Costa's on a 6-fight win streak. He caught out Diego Lopez. I do like the idea of that fight, and I think if he wins this, you do Lopez versus Costa. That's a great matchup. But realistically, Diego Lopez broke both of his fucking feet. And he got slimed out by Volk. He's not coming back for a little bit of time. Yair Rodriguez is just sitting around doing fucking nothing. I would say if Arnold Allen wants to be active and keep this run going, because he looked good against Gene Silva, even though he lost, I think him versus Melchizael Costa, as soon as we can possibly make this happen, I think that's a great fight to make in the featherweight division, dude. All right. Now, my God, man. Jeff Neal, bro. Every time I fucking get back to this fight, I remember Jeff Neal fucking... I'm literally Jeff Neal right now. Ready? I'm going to go to heaven. That's what happened to Jeff Neal, dude. So Uros Medic now is ranked, even though Punahele Soriano beat him and he's on the fucking prelims. Uros Medic is now ranked. He had a great post-fight promo. Lot of highlights from that. Called out Leon Edwards. I like that fight a lot. I was going to say maybe Medic versus Buckley, but Buckley's booked against Sean Brady. I'm sorry, Leon, brother. You're literally fighting white Leon Edwards, dude. Why do they look like alternate skins of each other, dude? They got the same exact fucking hairline, bro. I love this fight, man. It's, dude, Leon Edwards is so fucked, bro. His option, this is Leon Edwards' options, the fucking doom and despair. Yaroslav Amosov, fuck. Uros Medic, fuck. Who else, dude? Who else is this guy's options? MVP, fuck. Leon is fucking done for, brother. Leon is getting fucking slimed in wherever Uros Medic is from, dude. I think that's a great call out from him. Makes perfect sense. Leon's in that stage of his career where he could literally fight an unranked guy, and I'm probably going to pick the unranked guy depending on who it is. But it also makes sense matchmaking-wise, right? That he's at that stage. He's on a losing streak. He's been finished a couple of times now. He deserves a little bit of a jump down in competition and maybe rebuild, bounce back, or to really see where he's at. So I like this fight. I think it's a great idea. I hope the UFC follows through on this. Knowing the UFC, this makes perfect fucking sense. They're going to be like, what's the question? You guys want to see Medic versus Leon Edwards? Yeah, we're going to do... We got other plans. We got other plans. Medic will be getting fucking Carlos Leal somehow. And Leon Edwards will be getting fucking... I don't even know, dude. Renat Fakhretdinov somehow. Some shit like that. Like, straight up, the UFC just makes no fucking sense. Yeah, I would do Edwards versus Medic. And I would do Jeff Neal, like... Maybe just retire, honestly. Or Jeff Neal versus somebody like a... mainly a grappler, please, would be nice. Like, Jeff Neal versus Gunnar Nelson. You know what I'm saying? Let's give Jeff Neal a fucking break, dude. Let's get Jeff Neal in there with fucking Gunnar Nelson, man. I was gonna say the loser of this should fight Carlos Leal until Jeff Neal got fucking colded. I do not want to see Carlos Leal walking down Jeff Neal, blobbing him, dude. I think Carlos Leal should be getting, like, the winner of Randy Brown, Kevin Holland. And I think Jeff Neal should get Gunnar Nelson or fucking... If we can get Damian Maia back, that would be a fun matchup for him. I don't want to see him get touched on the chin. Or Jeff Neal retires and we get Edwards versus Medic. Let's talk about the main event, man, because listen, bro. This is the one time where fence sitting genuinely paid off. I am a huge Anthony Hernandez fan, but I did know that Sean Strickland was going to win this fight. I didn't think it would be a finish. I thought it would be a very clear decision victory. Outstriking him, keeping him at range, stifling the grappling. He did a really good job of that, and he caught Fluffy with a knee to the body and finished him up against the fence in the third round. Very, very good performance from Sean Strickland. Very muted performance from Anthony Hernandez. By the way, do you like that vocabulary, dude? Muted performance? I sound like fucking Luke Thomas right now, dude. Muted performance. I sound like Dan Hardy, dude. Muted performance from Anthony Hernandez. Oh, my days. He couldn't get that cross grip going whatsoever. He couldn't step to the outside of the lead foot battle. Listen, bro. Anthony Hernandez is going to be back, dude. When Anthony Hernandez can get going on the feet and mixing his takedowns, he's mogging a lot of these guys at middleweight. I think he would have beat Rainier Derrida. I think right now he beats Israel Adesanya. I think him and Robert Whittaker is actually a very close fight. He probably cardio mogs Robert Whittaker, if I'm being honest. I love Bobby Knuckles, but I think Anthony Hernandez can bounce back. Realistically speaking, I think he's going to get the winner of Baralho Rainier Derrida. Right now, I'm feeling like Baralho wins that, so I've got him here. But I would like to see in some world Hernandez versus Rainier Derrida get rebooked, because I do think Hernandez wins that. I think that's a fun fight. I think that 3 rounds, maybe Rainier Derrida could win that. But honestly, Anthony Hernandez, yes, he is chinny to the body, but that is against good strikers, dude, or guys that have genuine power on the feet. Rainier Derrida, he is a grappler. He's going to tie up with Anthony Hernandez in the clinch. He'll probably try and take him down and control him. Then he'll start to gas out because Hernandez will get the chance to scramble and grapple with him. Then Hernandez will push the pace on the feet. I think Hernandez wins that fight. I think the Baralho fight is a little bit tougher because of how well-rounded he is, but I think that Baralho is nowhere near the boxer of fucking Sean Strickland. So Hernandez would be a little bit more comfortable on the feet and probably be able to get going. Regardless of who it is, I think he'll get the winner of Baralho versus Rainier Derrida at UFC 326. That makes sense to me, dude. Maybe Izzy beats Joe Pyfer and they go, all right, we want to give him a big fight. Do they do Hernandez versus Izzy? I don't really see that happening. I feel like the UFC would try and just jump straight back into Strickland Izzy 2 or fucking... I don't even know, man. And Mavov, Izzy too. Like that, I feel like they do some weird shit like they're trying to do with Kamaru Usman if he bounced back. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is the most realistic. And as for Sean Strickland, here's the fucking thing, you guys, right, dude? Paramount cut my fucking mic, dude. Here's the fucking thing, you guys. By the way, bro, Paramount is actually pissing me off so bad. The streams are fucking lagging. The main events are getting fucking worse. I had no UFC to watch last weekend, dude. Okay? And now you're cutting Sean Strickland's mic when he's going in on fucking Chimaev and one of Anthony Hernandez's coach. If you know, you know. Right? But regardless of that, one thing I do know about Paramount is they are here for the pay-per-views. They are here for the big name fights. They wanted their first pay-per-view, UFC 324, to be Ilya versus Paddy Pimblett. Right? I don't think they'll get to the point where we're doing bullshit like Chimaev versus Yuri. I'm pretty confidently able to say I don't think that's actually a real thing. That's why I haven't made a video about it. But I do think this fight will happen for Chimaev. Him versus Sean Strickland. Dude, you have to make this fight. Okay? You guys know that I'm the guy that pushes the fucking agendas of like, nah, Bilal Muhammad deserved the title shot over Colby Covington, blah, 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 all that type of stuff. Magomed Ankalaev deserved the title shot. Like, I will defend the people that UFC fans fucking hate. Okay? But I'm just going to say it like it is, dude. In this case, the UFC being like a business first and a sport second, I kind of fuck with it. Also, Sean Strickland beat Chimaev already. Also, Sean Strickland versus Brendan Allen, he didn't get fucking taken down and controlled for 5 whole minutes like Nasruddin Chimaev did. I think this fight is a competitive fight. I actually think Sean Strickland has a good style to fight against Khamzat Chimaev. I don't know if I'd fucking pick him to win. I could see him kind of getting subbed in like round 3 or 4 or some shit. Like he does good, but then he gets subbed. Like I could see that type of thing happening. I don't know why I also feel like there could be a McGregor versus Khabib type brawl after this. I get those vibes for some reason. But I like this fight, dude. The beef. Here's the fucking thing about the fucking Chechnya, you guys. Here's the fucking thing, dude. I don't give a fuck. I have to kill this fucking guy, bro. You know what I mean? The beef. That first, like, 10 seconds when the referee's like, you ready? You ready? And Chimaev's fucking staunch and Strickland's fucking pacing up and down the fucking... Dude, I need to see this fight. It makes sense right now with the rankings. It makes sense right now with the situation in the division where Chimaev is the #1 contender and he does not need to fight anybody else. I don't want to see Chimaev lose an opportunity, but at the same time, I'm sorry, but Strickland vs. Chimaev is just a bigger, better, more exciting fight. I want to see this shit, and I feel like most people do too. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Who do you think wins this? What do you think of my matchmaking? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Go follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Bedtime MMA, and I will see you guys in tomorrow's video, man. Goodbye.